Hello everyone, it's me again. My name is Taisa. I'm content manager at SEO Ranking, and this is the second day of our marketing marathon, how to stop panicking and start taking action. Our guest today is Josh Bachynski. Hello Josh, thank you very much for joining us. Can you say something so we make sure that we can hear you?
Hello, how are you?
Josh is Google Insider, a well-known internet marketing SEO consultant. If you know something about SEO, you must probably know his YouTube channel. If not, subscribe to the channel Josh Bachynski. There are lots of valuable and great information for you. Josh's talk today will be about how to prevent snake-hole SEO from ruining your business, an extremely important topic right now. And before handing you over to Josh, I want to remind you that you can ask questions and Josh will answer them during or after our session. Also, for the most interesting question, you will get a 1 month optimum SEO ranking subscription, and Josh will choose the question in the end. And remember that it's your chance to ask an expert for advice, so take it, don't hesitate, ask questions. Okay, that's it. I'm giving the floor to Josh. Josh, please start.
Thanks, Stasa. Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon or evening, wherever you might be in the world. I hope you're all healthy and safe. And I don't know if you're all quarantining yourselves the way I am right now in Canada, but I hope everyone's happy and safe out there and they're not going completely crazy with the quarantining. So today's talk, as Stasa mentioned, is going to be SEO snake oil, how not to lose your business. That is a good thing, not losing your business. And it's going to be a very interesting talk. It's going to be, I think it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of people. I hope it to be revolutionary for many people. And I'm really trying to help solve this problem. It's a large problem in our industry that doesn't get talked about enough, sadly. And so here we go. So I'd like to start off with a thought experiment. I'd like you to relax yourself and try to imagine an industry that had hundreds of billions of dollars flowing through it, that had, tens of thousands of jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs relying on it, and that your business relied on entirely, that this was the main revenue source for your business. And right now I'm talking to mostly CEOs and managers, but I'm also talking to in-house SEOs as well, even affiliate SEOs as well. And now I want you to imagine this industry that your business is totally and completely reliant upon. Imagine that the state of the art in this industry was rumor and innuendo. That was it. The best amount of truth you could get, the highest quality of knowledge you could get to rely on to guarantee you do not lose this precious, precious revenue of yours is rumor and innuendo. That's it. That's all you have to rely on is rumor and innuendo. No one really knows for sure what's going on. Everybody repeats the same rumor to each other. Someone thought they heard something at a conference here and they repeated to each other here, and they're just spouting off rumor over here with really no safeguards, no way of knowing if that's really true or not, and nothing but guesswork at best. Surprise. So how does that make you feel as a CEO or a manager, knowing that your revenue, your job, your employees, or as an in-house SEO, your job, your revenue, in this imaginary industry I'm talking about, how would that make you feel if your complete revenue was based on nothing really, when you're being perfectly honest with yourself, is just rumor and innuendo? Even if, let's imagine this imaginary industry, let's say they had a company that worked in it that is supposed to know the truth. Let's call them, I don't know, the company. And the company comes out in conferences, and the company has hangouts every week, and the company says, do this, do that, sacrifice a chicken to Zeus, and maybe your rankings will get better. Or they say, do a rain dance and maybe it'll rain tomorrow. And your entire revenue is based on this level of knowledge, this level of rumor and innuendo. Again, how safe would you feel, even if the company is supposed to be the company who knows, and is supposed to be the company telling you the truth, but this company has a stake in this revenue as well, and they want to keep as much of it as possible away from you, so they can put it in their coffers because it's what their business is entirely based upon. How would you feel if this company was saying things that are supposed to be true, but really you can never really trust it because they're trying to hide their secrets and they're trying to keep all the revenue for themselves? And all of your revenue in this regard is based completely on rumor and innuendo. Can I see in the chat how that would make you feel? Please let me be honest, how that makes you feel if in this imaginary scenario, which of course I'm going to make non-imaginary very quickly. In this imaginary scenario, how would that make you feel? Please let me see in the chat. Helen says not safe at all with a sad face. I agree. Ray says like crap. Claire says not great, lost. Miguel is using the emoji. Sandra says it makes me feel like I'm dealing with the real Google algorithm. You're pulling the curtain behind my imaginary scenario. Yes, not safe. Perfect. So thank you. Good. Thank you for paying attention. And you're not wrong. That's exactly how you should feel. You should feel not great about it when your entire revenue base is based on rumor and innuendo and nothing but rumor and innuendo. So as some of you have already predicted, this sadly is not an imaginary situation. This is a situation that we all are in SEO. All of our knowledge in SEO, I'm afraid to say, if we're being perfectly honest, and let's be perfectly honest with ourselves, and I was the exact same way to start, all of our knowledge is based off of rumor and innuendo, whispers. I heard John Mueller whisper at a conference once that this was bad, and oh, did you hear that Gary Ilyish said one time that this was bad, and oh, and then Barry Schwartz said this because he thinks he knows, and Danny Sullivan used to be one of us, but then now works for Google and saying this. That's all rumor and innuendo. And I'm sorry to say that it can hurt your business. I've been doing this before Google even started. I've been doing SEO and web development since the late 90s. Yes, these are all gray hairs here. And that I try to hide with hair dye and things, but no one can go to the barber right now. So this is the truth showing through. I promised truth in this talk. Sadly, we can't rely on Google. It's John Mueller and Gary Ilyish's job, and we're being perfectly honest, to obfuscate the truth from us to some large degree. They don't want us reverse engineering their algorithms. They don't want us figuring out how their algorithms currently work. They made that mistake with links. They told us, yeah, make links. So we did. We went crazy with that. And then they're like, oh, we made a huge mistake. And then they, of course, put out Panda for quality. They put out Penguin for links way back in 2011, 2012. And they reversed course and they started zipping their lip, and even at conferences. I have John Mueller's email. I've had personal conversations with Matt Cutts, who used to work for Google. All of you know I've been in the industry for a long time. And those who know those guys and have, Miley Oye, I used to have personal conversations with all these people. I've never met Gary Ilyish, but all the rest of these people, I've had personal conversations with these people, and they would tell you stuff at conferences. They would treat you like in the cool club. They would give you secrets. That is not that way anymore. The company Google is trying to protect their precious algorithm as much as possible, and they are no longer telling us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And the rest of the SEO industry, it is nothing, sadly, but snake oil. Imagine it's rumor and innuendo. Whether you want to have the adjective snake oil applied to it. Just imagine if the medical profession still ran off of rumor and innuendo in this crisis we're going through right now, like it used to. Anybody watch HBO's Deadwood? HBO's Deadwood with the doctor? That's what medicine used to be like, right? Back in the 1800s, they had very little idea what they were doing. And it was all based on theory and conjecture for the most part. And that's what they had to try to help people. Imagine if just theory and conjecture, unverified theory and conjecture is all we had right now in the SEO industry to imagine what was going on. Imagine, sorry, my metaphor was, imagine if that's what they had to go off of in medicine right now, just theory and conjecture, trying to deal with this coronavirus. What is it? Is it spirits? Is it angry gods? Is it, that's theory and conjecture. You really don't know. oh, well, I think it's some little particles, but maybe heat will kill it, so we'll heat everybody up, or maybe, that's theory and conjecture. And imagine what would be happening in medicine right now if that's what was going on right now for coronavirus. That'd be even more terrible than it is currently. We have very powerful science to know exactly what the SARS-CoV-2 pathogen is causing the COVID-19 disease. And still look how much the world has been hurt by this tiny little undead piece of code that hijacks our cells and then reproduces. And we have a scientific high level of knowledge of this. So, and I don't want to scare people too much, but I do want you to feel a little bit of fear, because when you think about it, your SEO revenue right now is currently based on the state of the art is rumor and innuendo. And so there has to be a better way. There is a better way. And I've already mentioned the answer, and the answer, of course, is science. So that's how not to lose your business. I'd like to show you, actually, if I may share my screen. I'm going to go here to Google Trends, and I'm going to show you. You might be wondering about, Stasi, I hope you don't mind if I share my screen. And if I do a search in Google Trends, for those of you who've never used it, it's very interesting, of course. Search engine optimization, as in the topic. This is, and that was the coronavirus boost. That's very interesting. Here is the interest in search engine optimization over time for the past 5 years, just for the United States. And you see it's been going down over time. In fact, it's never been more, in the last 5 years, SEO has never been this popular. And that is the date here, of course, is right around when the coronavirus started coming out and people started realizing they're going to start losing their jobs. But in the entire world, Google has been doing a very good job. It's been going slowly up over time in the rest of the world. But if you look in the US, Google has been doing a very good job. Here's the November update. Remember that big bad November update that Google rolled out? I called it the anti-SEO update, because a whole bunch of people got into SEO when Trump got into office, which is fascinating. Again, why that is, I have no idea. I guess they thought the economy would boom or something. Then Google said, oh no, we don't want this. And in November, they crushed them, and a whole bunch of them got out. This here, I don't think a lot of people realize this, is that when Google makes changes to their algorithms to try and make it even harder for people who are operating on nothing more than rumor and innuendo, they try to crush us. They are not our friends. Sadly, they have a vested interest in this market to control as much of those dollars as possible. They do not want SEO dollars going to SEOs. They want those marketing dollars going to Google Ads. And they do try to crush us on a regular basis. So I apologize for those of you who might think of Google as your friend. Trust me, I've talked with these guys. I have John Mueller's email. I used to talk with them on a regular basis. They're friendly, they're nice guys, but they've got a job to do, and they don't want to lose their job either. So it's an us or them scenario now. We're in a bit of a road warrior scenario at this point, as you can see that curve of SEOs losing their livelihood and jobs on November I showed you. And it's up to us to be able to sort through the rumor and innuendo to find out what the truth is in terms of the ranking factors and take advantage of those. So in the chat, if you guys don't mind, let me know who wants to know the truth, who wants to hear more about the positive aspect of science and truth and how we can use that to boost SEO. Please let me see in the chat who wants to see more about this.
A couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I can ask you them now.
Yeah, sure.
It's pretty revealing on the things that you're told us right now. The question is, what to do with still having Google as our primary source of search traffic? Basically, what should we do? Should we stop our SEO campaigns? Should we put more energy in them?
So that's a great question, Stasa. So, and that's exactly what happened with that waterfall you saw on November 8th when Google released the anti-SEO algorithm. A lot of people just said, that's it. They just washed their hands of it and left. And I've personally known SEOs who've been leaving the industry. I'm sure everybody here knows some SEO that lost their job or some business that went down and the SEO went down with it. Or they've decided to get out to paid traffic in some way, use your Google Ads, or they go to paid traffic like buying Twitter traffic for this or for special CPA offers or stuff like that. That's usually where they go. Or they get out of internet marketing altogether. You don't have to do that though. You don't have to get out of SEO. That is a very honest and perfect question for you to ask, Stasa. Like, because that's where we're at, right? Okay, well, if Google's going to keep obfuscating this information to the point where it's useless and I can't use it to practically rank in any niche that's any vaguely competitive, and every niche gets more competitive over time if there's any money to it, right? The logic of capitalism will force every niche getting harder to rank in over time with more and more competitors. Then what do? The only answer is either get out, like you said, or you have to rely on science. You have to ditch the rumor and innuendo. You have to break up with Google. You have to swipe left. I don't use Tinder, I'm married. So is that, what do you do when it's bad? Swipe left? Is left the bad way?
Right.
You swipe left on Google, you say nope, and you break up with them, and you literally stop listening to every word they say, and you test it yourself. You rely on science. You go back to the scientific method, the pure, pristine, innocent scientific method, and you use the scientific method to figure out what the actual ranking factors are. And you build up a program of science where you make one little discovery, 2, 3, 4, and you build up on those until you have a couple hundred discoveries. And now you have scientific knowledge of actually how the ranking factors are working. And you can base all of your theories on scientific knowledge and not rumor and innuendo. And you can test the rumor and innuendo. Somebody says, oh yeah, meta OG tags, that's a ranking factor, that'll boost you, so you should use them. Really? That's very easy to test. Throw some meta OG tags in a page with a bunch of pages that don't have it and see what happens when you index it. That's a drop dead easy test to do. I've done it. They don't help, right? Depends what you put at them. And it depends if you like the Google dance. It actually gets very, very complex. So that's the first chapter of the story. The answer is science. It'll work for you. My general message I want to give here is to do science. And I'm going to give you a general way of doing it, a simple way of doing it. I'm going to give you some examples. But I just want you to know that the scientific SEO community, this revolution has been going on for about 2-3 years now. We've been very, very quiet because we don't want Google paying any attention to us, right? I'm only going to little conferences like this with a small amount of attendees. I'm not going to SMX. I'm not going to, SEO Rockstars. I'm not going to all these different conferences I used to do. Now it's being very, very quiet. So I'm letting you guys in on secrets. So we have to be very, very quiet and not go to Google. Please, please, please do not go to John Mueller and say, Josh Bachynski says, that you're not going to get a good response after you say that. This guy says that SEO science is the way to go. Now, interestingly, Gary Ilyish tweeted out years ago that you should be doing science. You should be testing it yourself. But as soon as you mention my name or anything related to our movement, any of the tools that we use, you're going to get a very bad response. He's not going to say, yes, join that group and pay for those tools, and I'm sure that'll help you. He can't say that. He's not allowed to say that. So don't expect an honest answer from John Mueller, except in very rare circumstances, like negative SEO, is that real or something like. But even then, they lie to cover their ass. So I don't even listen to anything they say anymore, anything at all. But so I'd like to show you some simple way to do your own scientific testing today, so you can do it yourself. But just know that we've already been doing this for 3 years, and we've made some incredible discoveries. I have a SEO university that you can join if you want. We still have some spots. If you want to email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com, and we'll start the I don't accept every student. We'll start the application process. But, and we've discovered some stuff, and Google is obfuscating some results now, so it's not as easy as it was 2 or 3 years ago. But I still want to give you some of the tools where you can test it yourself, and you can decide if you want to do it yourself, or you can join the university with a group of 100 people who've already been doing it for 3 years and see what quantum leaps, literally quantum leaps we've made. We've gone from like Newton level to Einstein level to like Carl Sagan level. Like we've done at least three jumps of quantum, like earth-shattering. Oh, that's how it works. That's how it works. That's works. But I want to show you today how you can get it working for you. So is everyone interested in learning some basic science? I do some basic SEO experiments.
Yes, I'm getting here also questions. For example, we are saying about the whole Google around conspiracy kind of, but our task is still to rank well on Google. Right. So basically to make Google like us on our terms. So the question, does the science work to improve the rankings?
Of course, that's the whole point. So if you want proof that we can adjust rankings and we can move the rankings forward, go to bit.ly/SEO proof. I've put it here in the chat for everybody, all panelists and attendees. Go to bit.ly/SEO proof whenever you want now, maybe not now because I'll be talking, but you can go look at it later. And that shows you we know how to push the needle, that science can, unsurprisingly, isolate the ranking factors if you know how to do the testing right. And once you've isolated the ranking factors, that's a fact, you know, not rumor, not innuendo. And now you can start making judgments and guesses and theories based on those facts, as opposed to just based on rumor, you know, air based on air instead of air based on ground, you know. And then you can start making rumors, not rumors, but you can start making theories from there. Yeah, I mean, there's two different things, right? There's Google, the company, that says one thing, and then there's Google, the algorithm. The algorithm is RankBrain, it's BERT, it's Hummingbird. Would you like me to give you a general overview of what we discovered first, and then I'll show you how to do an experiment? I could do that as well. So we've discovered through our science that Google works on a two-sort system, and a lot of you probably already know this. The first sort brings back the used to be 1,000 shard collection. Now that they've limited that to around 200 to 300 shards. Shards are bits of pages that fit the query. And the second sort is QDD and QDF after the fact algorithm resorting. So QDD stands for query deserves diversity. QDF stands for query deserves freshness. They have a whole bunch of query deserves diversity algorithms. You've probably heard of those acronyms before in SEO. And so basically what Google does is they have a semantic engine that does, which is RankBrain, BERT, Hummingbird, which does these kinds of, which I've isolated those beasts and I kind of know what they do. And that does the first sort and the second sort, part of the second sort. And the rest of the second sort is done by the quality engine, and that's Panda or whatever they've built Panda into. It's very, very traffic-based as to what they see going on. And this is the semantic engine is very, very word clue based. And a lot of scientists have different theories as to what the word clues are. Some people think it's LSI, latent semantic indexing. It's not. Some people think it's TF-IDF, term frequency inverse document frequency. It's not, but that's built in. It's actually something closer to vectoring, semantic vectoring. And they use those word clues to determine, you know, if you talk about X, Y, Z more, you know, when you're talking about Kennedy, they use the word assassination a lot. So if you're talking about assassination, you know, that you're moving on that vector towards Kennedy, and they're going to throw some Kennedy results in there, because if you just blanket type in assassination, they might throw Kennedy in there. I don't know if that's actually true. I've never tested it, but that's kind of like whenever you talk about the Kennedy family, you must talk about assassination. You know, there's a billion sentences like that out there on the web they've spidered. And so now they know how to relate those two concepts. NLP, natural language processing, also becomes involved as well. And actually the recent update they made in January is, which a lot of more people got crushed from November, is adding in natural language processing into reading all the entities in the pages and reading their sentiment and their salience to that particular document, and then adding in the semantic vectoring on top of that. So that's the semantic engine. The quality engine verifies and qualifies all of that work that they're doing there. At the end of the day, the mighty clicks is what matters at the end of the day there. So that's kind of just a snapshot of what we found. If you look at bit.ly/SEO proof, you see we do push the needle. I have hundreds, probably, 450 in there now, examples of us, how we're pushing the needle forward, how science will make your rankings go up. At the end of the day, Stasa, yes, we are SEOs. It is our job to hit #1. We don't go for page 1, we go for #1. Still #1 in this day and age. Everyone else says, I'll get you to page 1. We say, yeah, I'll get you to page 1, and then I'll get you to #1 if you have the money. And if you want to go against that competition, it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy by a stretch of the imagination, but we do have the scientific knowledge of how to do it. So let me show you. So usually what happens in the conversation now, people go, yeah, well, Josh, that's great. And I know all of my SEO knowledge is actually not knowledge at all. It's rumor and innuendo, but there's no way to isolate the ranking factors. How can you possibly isolate the ranking factors to do SEO testing? And that's the next objection I usually get. So let me show you how you would do that. Do you guys want me to show you how you would actually isolate some ranking factors and how you would do that? Okay, so I could draw a diagram on a whiteboard. Would you mind if I share my screen for a whiteboard?
Of course, yes, please.
So let's say you want to test those OG tags. Let's see, your hypothesis here is, do OG tags, do they help rank? Do they not help rank? How are they done? Blah, 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 blah. For those who don't know, OG tags are little attributes that go off the standard meta tag. And I can't remember the exact syntax, but it's like, it's for Facebook, but there's Twitter ones as well. There's, whatever it is. And it's OG equals, Facebook or whatever it is. I can't remember the exact syntax. I could look it up. You definitely need to look it up for your experiment. I don't need to look it up for my example, but let's just say that was the syntax, but you definitely need to look up for your experiment. Otherwise you're going to get it wrong. SEO requires precision. It requires absolute unforgiving precision. So if you do not isolate the variables properly, then you're not going to have a very strong inference that comes from the test. You have to isolate all your variables, and that every single variable is that's possible. So what you would do here is, and this is a basic way of how you would test this. You're going to have 5 pages. You could do 10 if you want. 1 is going to have the OG tags in it, and 2 to 5 are going to be exactly the same. You can put English in here if you want, as long as it's duplicated. That's not going to make a difference. You're just going to have to add the filter equals 0 URL parameter on the top, or you have to click the omitted results. And you're going to have to do a few tests to make sure that by doing that it's not going to affect the test. I have, and I can tell you that it won't. It will not affect the test. Duplicated content is not the evil thing that Google thinks it is. If you can get it past Google's indexer, if you can get the page indexed, then all the ranking factors are at play, and you can test all of the ranking factors. How Google protects themselves a lot of the way from spam and from SEOs doing testing is that they don't allow you to get indexed. They look at your page, they see it's full of just gibberish garbage, and they just don't let you index it. Or they don't index all 10 of them, they index like 7 or something like that. And the higher quality, more trusted domain you try to do the testing on, the better indexation you have. So more trust equals more indexation. And you might be like, Josh, well, what do you mean by trust? Well, it's Quality Panda. That's what it is. And so if you have even a client website out there, you could think about doing this. I'm not saying you should do this, but these pages don't need to be in the sitemap. They shouldn't be. They don't need to be in the navigation. They shouldn't be. These pages should be isolated in some folder. As long as they're all in the same folder, that's fine, that no one needs to know about, that your client never even needs to hear about. It's not in the sitemap. They are not in the nav. You need to have enough knowledge of WordPress or technology to be able to do this. You cannot be an SEO scientist unless you know HTML, you know JavaScript to some degree, you know CSS, you know web technologies, you know how HTTP status works, you know how URL parameters work, generally speaking. And so what you do, if you have exactly the same, for this test, English will be fine, just duplicated, but others have tried Latin, others have tried gibberish. So they don't want, just in case there is something like a sentiment classifier, that Google is using a sentiment classifier to say like, this is a positive article, this is a negative article, and they'll start demoting it. Or there was a hypothesis back in the day of sentiment keywords like best this or good that might be a booster. They're not necessarily. That doesn't exist. We've tested it. So this is how I know what exists and what doesn't. This is how I know how the ranking factors work and don't, because I've been doing this for 3 years and I've tested every single thing many times. And anyway, so the simple way to do this test, whether the OG tags work, is you have exactly the same page. You could do this in English, make sure they're all duplicated. They have to be exactly the same. The only difference is that one has an OG tag and that they have a slightly different name so you can index them. So it had to be slash, test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, test 5. Test 1 is the one with OG tags. Once you get these spidered and indexed, a few hours later, and it only takes a few hours for Google to make on-page changes. This is an on-page test. A few hours later, you would do the search for whatever keyword is the same for all of these, you need a similar keyword, an exact match query keyword for all these. That usually is gibberish. I would just hammer on my keyboard until I got some gibberish string that you get 0 in Google. For example, I would go here to my keyboard and I'd say gibberish, 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 and hit enter. Good. Google doesn't match anything for this, so I can use this keyword. So this is now my search phrase, right? This is the search phrase I'm trying to rank for. Here it is here. That's my gibberish keyword right there. So actually all these pages are going to have this keyword in here somewhere in the page. It could be in the body, could be in H1, could be in the title, could be anywhere. Google will match it anywhere. And then the pages are all exactly the same, except for one has OG tags in it, and one has, and the rest of them have test 1, test 2, test 3, 4, 5. And you know what? To make this test a little bit more interesting, if you want to make progress in this arena, you need to learn how to test multiple things at once in a way that's not going to ruin your test. Like I said, you need to isolate the variables. If you don't isolate the variables, then you cannot infer anything from the test or as strongly from the test. But let's say if I had one page had OG tags in it, and the other, and I had another page, page number 2 is not going to be a control page. Page number 2 is going to have OG tags, but I'm going to put the EMQ inside the OG tags. Instead of putting this EMQ in the title or the body, wow, now you're really messing with it. If that was in the body, then you could, yeah, now I'm going in the weeds, but you would have an EMQ here. Let's say you'd put 2 EMQs in here, and then you'd say, okay, this is the same with no EMQs and no OG tags. And then you'd wait to see the relationship between this one and this one when you did your search. You go and do your search, and you get a difference between this one and this one. You see where these ranked. If 3, 4, and 5 ranked over 1 and 2, then you'd know not only does OG tags not help you, they might actually demote. If these ranked over these ones that have no OG tags, then either empty or with an EMQ in them, OG tags obviously are a detriment. Or if you did this ranking and you found out that this is how it sorted out when you searched in Google for this search phrase, right here, and let's say this is how it played out. If we got OG tags were number 1, OG tags the EMQ were number 2, and then all the rest of your control pages that are exactly the same, 3, 4, and 5, came down here like this, what would that tell you? Any guesses? If you did a search for this, and this came up but has no EMQ in it, and this came up and has an extra EMQ in the OG tags, and then this, and this, what would that tell you? If the OG tags come up top, well, that's a good thing, right? That's essentially what you want to find. You want to find ranking factors. So if just flatly this came up at the top, and now you got to check with multiple IPs, you have to have a Epic privacy browser. This is Epic privacy browser right here. You have to get the Epic encrypted proxy built in. So you have multiple IPs to check from, or you can get any kind of proxy IPs to check from. And I would check this, I would search from another IP address and see if it was the same. If it was the same, now we have a basic idea that we have more of science built on here, that we have a stable ranking factor that we can infer from. And then if this OG tag came up, the empty OG tag came up, then we could infer, well, it looks like the OG tag is a ranking factor. We checked this keyword with multiple IP addresses, and the one we put OG tags into comes up on top. Why the one with the EMQ in it is at the bottom? Well, apparently putting an EMQ in it is not a good idea compared to an OG tag, but it's still ranked above all the other control pages. But in this particular case, if this is the test that came up, I would recommend to the client, if it was a client asking me to do this, or my students in SEO University, what I would recommend to them is that if this is the way the test came up, and if I was sure when I was doing my due diligence that I isolated all the variables, that apparently OG tags are a beneficial factor and you should have them in there, but no EMQs in them. If that was the test that I had done, it's not. This is not the way the test panned out, by the way. But if it panned out this way, that's what I would infer from it. So you have to be precise, you have to be exact, you have to have them in the same folder, same server, same pages, same tags in them, same content in them, except for the name of the page. It has to be different, otherwise you won't get them indexed. You can't all try to index this.html. Google will index it once and say, I already have this URL. You can't make another URL record with this exact same URL. So it'd have to be 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. I don't even like using 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 because in some cases, when you're removing ranking factors, you'll find that Google has some very interesting base sort commands, and listing things numerically is one of them. So I don't even want to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd use like A, B, C, D, or I'd use like just random Z, you know, maybe O for OG. So I remember that's my test case. Then I'd put in like a 2, you know, Z, alpha, omega kind of thing. I might use other characters from other languages as well, just to separate them, differentiate them. You can also be tricky and start using periods and dashes to a different degree to get them if you want an EMQ URL, if that's what you're testing.
If you allow me, there are some of the questions about the method that you were just describing. Could we sum up it in the way that basically we should test different elements of the page and their ranking potential in a way, meta tags, hashtags, or open graph, regardless of what we've been told by Google about the importance of this element, and see how this element is working, how heavy it is for ranking in our niche, for example.
Yeah. So that is, in a nutshell, that would be the program, the scientific program that you would then be launching yourself on. It's a great program. It's an exciting program. It's also a lot of work. You saw the work I went through just to isolate the variables just for that one meta OG tag. And there's a whole bunch of the meta OG tags. You know, you would have 500, 1,000 different HTML tags to test. Each test would take about a day, 2 days. So it's going to take you a few years to test all of them in isolation, unless you can do multiple tests at once. I have a team doing experiments 8 hours a day, every day, and have been for the last 3 years. It is quite an ambitious endeavor to test every single variable, and that's just the on-page variables. Now you have other variables that you can test. You know, links obviously are the first thing. No follow, the new links, how do they work? You need to isolate all those variables and to find different ways to test those. SEO University, we already have a leg up in doing a lot of that testing. And as I said, Google has been getting more difficult yeah, OG is short for Open Graph. It's Facebook's one. There's Twitter one. There's, I don't know if TikTok has one. There's all different kinds of ones. Google has been making it a little bit more difficult. Like if I go back to my example, what we see these days now is at the first sort, we will see, okay, it'll shuffle like this, but then I'll check from another IP address, and this one will be down here. Then I'll check from another IP address, and this one will be up here. And it keeps shuffling every IP address you check. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like the SERPs sometimes when your pages are dancing and bouncing around? And we've been able to isolate why that is, and we've been able to isolate some of the reasons why the dance happens and how to stop it, more importantly, and how to move up in the rankings over time and not have your client pages dancing and not have your pages dancing. So Google's done a few different things to try to obfuscate it for us SEO scientists. Sadly, we weren't quiet enough. they noticed. I think I might have even had a mole in my group at one point. But overall, if you look at bit.ly/SEO proof, you see that we have been able to overall make tremendous discoveries and move the needle up. And you can too if you engage on this program of science. Even if you just drop into doing this, we call it a single variable test and single variable environment test, SVE test. Even if you just drop into doing this kind of SV test, your CEO says, I was thinking of adding in this plugin. What do you think? And as an in-house SEO, you're supposed to know what the answer is. And you go, let me check, I'll get back to you. You do the test really quickly. You install the plugin in your test environment, and you see how well it helps your rankings on that page. And you could say, no, we shouldn't do it, or yes, we it might be safe, but at least you have a more scientific answer as opposed to just nothing but rumor and innuendo, ultimately coming from a company who doesn't give two bleeps about you and is not trying to help you rank and is not your friend. So science is your friend. Science is always going to tell you the truth as long as you treat science right and do the isolated variables. And this is how you can really increase your knowledge. And if you're really interested in this, but you don't have the time to test for your full-time job for years, check out SEO University. Email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. I'll put my email in the chat, joshbachynski@gmail.com. If you just search Josh Bachynski, any spelling close to me, Google knows who I am. They really do know who I am. And they will still send you to my page. They still haven't blacklisted me entirely. They did hit one of my sites with an untrusted penalty. I still ranked #1. I ranked a page #1 for a Your Money, Your Life query on this untrusted site with no internal links to the page and no external links to the page either. You guys want to see that page? Want me to share it? You guys won't do any negative SEO to it, right? You promise you're not going to do any negative SEO to it? Oops, there's another one. Okay, so if I do ethics, simple definition, it was ranking #1. Here it is, #2. This page here on my IP address up here in Canada is #2. And you can try to reverse engineer this page all you like. It's not going to help you. It's the science is the algorithms are way too complicated to be able to do that. If I go to Epic Privacy Browser and I search for, we're in Germany right now, so it says, I go to google.com and I search for, let's look in English. Uh-oh, this is something that Google does. This is because they don't like proxies. Hopefully let me through fast because, oh, there we go. Ethics simple definition, and it should be, oh, uh-oh. Oh, here we go, there we go. That's why, yes, it's #1 there. So even above the people also ask. So again, you can look at this page all you like and try to reverse engineer it. I've put stuff in here, because I use it as an example. I've put red herrings in here that don't necessarily help. So you might be like, oh, because clearly there's a table of contents in here. That's how we're getting the site links. You might be like, oh, Google likes site links. You must have tested that. No, I didn't. I just put that in there for the users. But I did put other stuff in here, some other stuff in here that Google does like. So that's my little freebie, a little gift just for you guys. For those of you who follow me on YouTube, you know I haven't even released even close to this amount for my YouTube followers. I make them join SEO University. But for you guys, because Stas is nice, I'll show you a couple of the secrets. But yeah, if you're interested in more, email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com or check out Secret SEO Guru or check out my YouTube channel for more about the SEO University. And questions. What questions do you have?
If you don't mind. So you
Sure.
mentioned that with all the graphs and schemes that you were putting there, that duplicated content is not that terrible. You were talking about self-duplication, the duplicated content throughout your site, or plagiarism at all?
That's a great question. So here's another little tidbit I can tell you from doing scientific testing. There is no duplicated content penalty. That's one thing where John Mueller is rarely telling the truth. I know because I scientifically tested it. And you can have all kinds of duplication on your own site. Where it becomes to be a problem is where you have millions of pages that are duplicated. And it's starting to eat up your crawl budget. And so they're not indexing fresh pages anymore. They're keep going back and indexing your duplicated pages. That'd be a very rare scenario, but that can happen. Otherwise, Google is very good at spidering duplicated content. In fact, it helps you in some ways, some very secret, interesting ways on your own site, and even on other sites, it helps you in very secret, interesting ways. So it is a make work rumor that Google likes to spread around because they like to keep you all busy running around like chickens with your heads cut off, doing the wrong things or things that don't matter, like sitemaps don't matter at all. Duplicated content doesn't really matter at all. Robots text doesn't really matter at all. Sitemaps and robot text are a better way for you to shoot yourself in the foot than to do anything that's important. The disavow file, don't get me started on the disavow file. I don't know how many of you guys have been in the industry for 10 years and remember disavow gate. I've tested the disavow file a million ways since then, and all it does is demote your site. Never, ever, ever, ever use the disavow file. I can say that with scientific certainty. Yeah, so they like to get you doing a whole bunch of make work projects that help them and don't help you, or they don't really care if it helps you. But duplicate content is one of them. Now, if you're in a situation where another site has scraped your site and is ranking above you, well, that's a problem, yes, but not because it's duplicated content. It's a problem because you have an untrusted penalty and they don't. There's no reason, and Google's algorithms are very good to see if a scraper scrapes you, but they're ranking above you. That means you have a panda penalty on this site anyway. You need to fix the panda penalty first, and then you're going to rank above the scraper anyway. And then them scraping all your content actually helps you with the two different algorithms. So that's perfectly fine. But if they're ranking above you, that's a problem, but not because they duplicated you, because you have a panda penalty here and you didn't realize.
What about keyword cannibalization? Is this the thing, considering that if we have several pages with the same content, they still will be in a way of each other in the SERP?
Yeah, so keyword cannibalization is one of those rumors that is very important. And when you start testing it scientifically, you realize that you have to be very, very careful not to do keyword cannibalization. So here's a good rule of thumb. If you go to the Google SERP and you do a search for a query, oh, look at that. That's my site. I wonder how I put that there. I wonder how I modified the auto-suggest to put that there. Oops. Sorry, Google. Yes, we can do things like that. You want to have one page about one topic or one exact match query. It's actually an obfuscation. Google is not a control F like search in Word anymore. If your exact match query is ethics simple definition, they're not just giving you pages that say ethics simple definition anymore. They're giving you pages that just say ethics definition, or different things like that, simple English, like different variations of it. It is based on the word clues. It's not based on just EMQs anymore, per se. So when you do a search like this, you want to make sure, I don't want to try and be ranking for ethics meaning and ethics simple definition on the same page. I don't want to be trying to rank for ethics examples and ethics simple definition in the same page either. That is a mistake that you'll never rank very well for either one. You need to consolidate all of your ranking power behind one EMQ, and that's the EMQ you're going for. And then you have another page on ethics meaning. So I'd have a page on ethics versus morality, ethics versus this, ethics simple definition. I'd have a page on ethics examples, and the ethics examples page and the ethics simple definition page are going to be siblings. They are not going to be, you would not bury this in an H2 on the page. That's a mistake of a rival scientist group that's not very good. And that's the other thing you need to worry about, is that now that the scientific revolution has taken off, now we have competing science groups, and sadly, not all science groups are created equal, and some of them are sadly, in my opinion, pretty lazy. And so now it gets really hard for you to pick, okay, well, which science group is the good science group, right? Of course, I'm going to say it's mine, and they're going to say it's theirs. And so that's where the argument has come to now at this point for the SEO science groups.
Josh, thank you very much for giving us such an insightful and thought-provoking talk. For now, let me to remind our participants that we have 3 days of webinars ahead. It's just a start of the marathon, and our next guest is Alex Tachalova. The same time tomorrow, we're waiting for you here, so stay tuned, stay safe, and stay home.